Hey all, Andy here. Happy Thursday. Helping you build a career you love. Today we're going to be talking about how to be happy in your job search. Because job searching stinks. It's lonely. It's hard to be motivated. So today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk to you about why you get that way to begin with. We're going to talk about how I want you to look at your job search, how to know whether what you're doing is going to lead you in the right direction. Basically what the health of your job search is. I'm going to give you some tactics to get more control of your job search so you can feel more in control and hopefully increase your happiness. So I've got a lot of good stuff to unpack for you today. If you're here with me live, get in the chat and say hi. Put some question marks in front of your questions because we're going to go to a Q&A when we're done. I always want to know where you're watching from, who you are, what you need, and how you're feeling. So get in, say hi. I got a lot to cover today. And I always like to say, hey, look at who's on the list right at the top. Amelia, hey mom, how you doing? Great to see you. Charlene Crocker, my LinkedIn friend, how are you? Dana, what's up? Good to see you. I see a whole bunch of questions. Baby girl, Cherry, my Canadian friend, how are you? Kara's always got my back. Daisha from around the block. Adam Stark from across the pond. Word Dog Toronto from the other side of North America. Okay, great to have everybody. What's today all about? I know job searching is rough. It's especially rough when you're not sure what you're doing or you're getting bad advice from well-meaning friends and family members and colleagues and all that good stuff. I'd love to know from you right away what your biggest frustration is with your job search. And while you're typing that in, I want to talk about, well, forget the job search for a second. Well, I don't want you to forget the job search. I want you to tell me what's frustrating you. But think about, if you forget the job search for a second, why do we get frustrated in general? There's usually a couple or three things, depending on how you want to split them up. Expectations of any kind, even if they're good ones of a well-adjusted, evolved adult. We get frustrated because the world doesn't operate the way we think it ought to, even if we're correct. It's still frustrating, or maybe we don't feel in control of the situation. Maybe there's a little bit of overlap there. And I also think one of the really big reasons we get frustrated is because our success metrics in anything we do are not dialed in correctly, meaning we don't have the right perspective of what's actually happening. And dare I say, maybe not even attaching the proper meaning to what we're experiencing at the moment, right? I always say experience is not what happens to you, but the meaning you attach to what happens to you. And if your success metrics aren't dialed in correctly, we have a way of looking at things the wrong way. We place our attention on the things that we shouldn't be if we want to maintain the proper perspective. And I as a little example from my life, and I think I've talked about this a time or two, not a lot. I don't talk about this a lot, but I know I've mentioned it a time or two over the years. But back in 2016, I was launching or offering my first online training product. So I was, for the very first time in my life, having worked almost 30 years, had never sold a product to a consumer. I'd always sold my services to other businesses. And so I wanted to become a trainer in this fashion and offer individual coaching and online training programs to people like yourself that would consume it and grow their careers or find their jobs or use it however it best served them. And I finally did that in November of 2016. And I will admit that I had an idea, or at least an expectation, of how many people I was hoping would buy the product based on how many people were following me and opening up my emails and engaging with me on the internets and all that good stuff. And wouldn't you know it, some very small fraction of what I was hoping the number would be that would enroll in the program actually did. And if I was obsessed over how many people bought that program or how much revenue it generated for my company, I assure you, if those are my success metrics, you and I would not be having this conversation right now. You'd be watching some other career coach, my guess, is because I would have thrown in the towel. But I didn't do that, or maybe I did that for a few seconds, but I didn't dwell on that. My focus was, I launched a product for the very first time. I sold something to a consumer who was going to benefit. The first person who bought it, some nice lady, her name was Leslie. Right? And version 1.0 of that product was up, and version 1.0 of my true business, because you're not in business unless you're making money and serving customers, was up and running. And even though I'd been working for a year and a half on the runway to get that product launched, now it was official. And those were my success factors, and that's stuff I could control and stuff I could work with. And your job search is a lot like that. And why do we tend to get frustrated in the job search? I'm going to look at the chat here in a second. But I know it's because at the grandest level, if you're not sure what direction you want to take your career, that can be very overwhelming, make you very stuck, right? I don't know if I'm in the right job. What career should I change to? And it becomes very, very difficult to know how to choose all that. And then let's say you do know that. The second thing is those actions you're going to take to actually find that job in the right company, the steps you're going to go through. Do you know those? Do you actually know the proper steps to take? And then even if you are taking the right steps, are the results that you're expecting, are you actually realizing them? So as if I should get the job interview because I'm qualified. I should get the job because I'm qualified. I should get paid this because that's what I'm used to getting paid. Or all of the opportunities that are available in this world that is apparently totally limited are what's available, and I can see that's publicized on the internet, those open positions, right? And I if I want to get those jobs, I have to apply through the applicant trashing system, through the corporate portal, because it says on the corporate website, this is the only way we receive or will entertain your submission. And then it's I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have a degree, or the degree I have isn't the right one. And on this goes. And we have these assumptions about the way things work. We have these expectations about the results we think we're going to attain. On a daily basis, I get emails or direct messages from anywhere on the internet of any of my social media platforms that talk about the level of frustration. I got one the other day. And this one struck me, and I responded directly to this person who said, yeah, I feel like I've been at this for 2 years, and I feel like I've hit the wall. I mean, paraphrasing here, but I feel like I've hit the wall, and I've applied to over 2,000 jobs. I'm not sure what to do. I'm reading this email, and I'm feeling this guy's frustration because I know it to be true. And I responded to him and tried to give him some insight and some motivation from people who'd been successful, who had his similar challenges. But when you feel like I've tried everything, no, you've tried everything that you know. And maybe you've tried everything that somebody's taught you or somebody else has taught you, but you haven't actually tried everything. And I could say the same thing about my business. Those dang ads. I've tried for years to figure that stuff out. I still haven't been able to, but I refuse to say I've tried everything because I simply haven't. So how do we get it back? Well, it starts with you got to control the controllables. You got to think without limits. And whatever you do, trade those expectations for appreciation of what is truly in front of you, which is nothing more than an opportunity. It really is. Your job search is nothing more than an opportunity to what? Discover new companies or more about discover companies you don't know, or discover more about companies that you're familiar with, to learn more, to meet people you haven't had the chance to meet with and maybe develop relationships with them and build skills you don't have, or if you have them, practice them to make them better at your communication, at your writing, at your networking, right? At being helpful to others. And so it really starts there. So you got to get in that kind of mindset. And all right, so tough love Andy's gone. Gentle Andy's back, because we're gonna talk about, well, how do we do all this? So the first part is I wanna get a running start with, what is it that I want you to think about as opposed to not think about? And this really goes to just perspective and mindset. So let's do a few quick do this, not that, because doing this is going to get you more in control, and you're going to be able to operate without limits. No one's going to be able to stop you. All right? There's an endless pile of opportunities out there. And to steal a lyric from Billy Joel, who I love, is there's an employer out there, there's probably very many employers out there who love you just the way you are. You don't need to change. And so, I always say there's nothing wrong with you, it's the marketing of you. Well, today we're talking about positivity and motivation, and a lot of that and your happiness as it relates to you has to do with what it is you're doing. And you've heard me talk about, as we talk to the imposter syndrome folks out there, right? If you want to change the way you think about something, and if you want to change your thoughts, you don't change your thinking, you change your doing. All right, so the changing and the doing starts now with a little of this and that. All right, so a lot of times people think in terms of what's available, what can I see, who has an open position. That's limited thinking, right? Because that's only what you can see. And I've taught you based on years and years of surveys that only 20% of job openings are actually publicized, right? Those are pretty consistent numbers year over year from HR folks and recruiters and hiring officials who fill out the surveys. So I want you to think about companies in terms of driving your job search. I want you to think about this companies and not this. Publicly cited open positions. There's nothing wrong with publicly cited open positions other than everybody else is looking at them, shoving their resume into the applicant trashing system, overflowing it for overwhelmed recruiters who can't get through all of them and don't anyway. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to just think about your search in terms of the company you want to join. What do I always say? You join a company, you don't join a job. You join the right one. You don't have the job you joined for very long. I mean that in a good way, right? Good companies know how to elevate their people. Think in terms of where you want to work, not what's available that you can see, okay? And then the second part of it is I also want you to think as it relates to publicized opportunities is I want you to think in terms of people, not publicized opportunities. Okay, so I want you to think about if I'm going to conduct my search, I want to think in terms of people. Because why? Because people give you a job. A computer system doesn't give you a job, right? People help you get to people who can give you a job. Friends refer you to friends who can give you a job. Friends refer you to their boss who can give you a job, right? People have the data. The computer doesn't have the data, as odd as that sounds, right? So think about the people, not about publicized opportunities. And the next thing that I want you to think about is I want you to, instead of the applicant tracking system, I want you to think in terms of sending thoughtful messages to people, right? Actual humans, not the robots, not the applicant trashing system. This is filled with constraints. It's set with tolerances that is likely not to let you through, not even be seen. So I want you to think in terms of thoughtful messages. This you can control, this you cannot control. Sure, you can control your resume and how good it looks and how many of the keywords it matches, the job description or whatever, but you still only have a 3% chance of being seen on average, not even getting an interview. But you have a much greater chance if you've crafted a thoughtful email of having somebody respond. So these are areas where you can start to think about and just mechanically start to think about, I want to stay out of the applicant tracking system. I don't mind you looking at open positions, but that's not the place I would really start my job search. Open positions and what's available to me gives you data, and it's a great idea to research that to figure out which companies are hiring, because I might see some open positions for salespeople even though I'm an engineer, but that's probably a good indication that that organization is hiring and is going to need engineers if they're a product company or a systems company or something like that. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to start thinking in those terms. And then before I get into some of the mechanics and metrics, I do want to take a look at some of these frustrations, and Kara's telling me it starts around 10:53, but I want to figure out who that is. It says common frustrations, a slowness with the process. Who said that? Let's see. Let's see. Where do I get to? Hang tight, folks. I want to get to. You guys are filling in the chat. I love it. All right, wait. Rachel Emily, I see you. Let me see if I can just pull up some of these very quickly. And Biggest challenge, overwhelm, a vegan for peace, overwhelm in the range of activities to do. Right, okay, so we're gonna address the number of activities and which ones. And hey, Lisa Day and Balaji, what's up? Rachel, biggest frustration, not getting interviews with hiring managers. When you say we should be getting one interview for every 5 to 10, I did say that. 3 days that include virtual coffee. All right, so we got a question there. Stephen Green, derailers to job search momentum, lots of distractions and priorities at this time of year. Okay, things, what are we noticing here? Things we cannot control. Negative feedback after hard work. Tom Phillips, how to represent. Okay, we got some questions here. Biggest challenge, Terry. Biggest challenge is narrowing the jobs to apply for. I throw out a very large net and hope I catch some. Okay, hope is not a strategy. Terry, come on. I taught you better than that. All right, we'll get to that. Many do-overs. Finding positions that are a good fit has been challenging. All right, I love this. I love this. Okay, what we're noticing here, and I think Kara said there was something somewhere in the chat about the slowness of the process. What are we noticing about virtually everything that I just called out there from the chat? These are things that are not within your control. And so a lot of times what's happening, we place our attention on things we cannot control. And what do I often say to you? When you send a message, if somebody doesn't get back to you, move on, right? You don't control, you can control how well you craft the message, maybe how effectively you target the person you're sending the message to. But even if you are the perfect person for the job and there's a boss out there that you've reached out to, that you're perfect for what that boss does, there's no guarantee that that boss will reach back to you for any number of reasons, none of which have anything to do with you. So here again, we're placing our attention on things we cannot control. So a lot of times what happens is that will increase our unhappiness and make us feel frustrated. All right, so what is it that we can control? And one of the things that I want you to do, and I'm really glad that after all that prepping, I forgot one card that I needed to draw for you, so we're gonna have to do this on the fly. But one of the things that I want you to do is, I have a job search challenge out there. I'm about to give you a 2-minute version of that job search challenge. I have a 30-minute free version that I'm sure when this is all recorded, it'll be up there in the card or whatever. There's a 30-minute free version of what I'm about to share with you in 2 minutes here on my YouTube channel, and I have a 7-hour premium version if you really want to be a go-getter. But one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to run your job search based on only things you can control. And there are 3 important elements to doing this. And my job search challenge is a quota-driven way to drive each day that you're searching, whether you're searching all day or whether you're searching for a portion of the day. But all of these activities are 100% in your control. And if you do these activities, statistically, I have data for years on end that show me that this is a better way for you to find your job, because the probability of finding your job this way is going to be substantially higher than the traditional ways that people are used to finding their jobs. So all it entails is I want you to every day identify 3 new, that's new, not chasing, 3 companies a day, and then within each company, identify a person within each company. That's going to give you 3 more people that you are now going to target with a thoughtful message. And if every single day you're sending just 3 itty-bitty emails that I actually will give you the free templates for, if you send those out each day, that's proactively, no one can stop you from researching companies and identifying new organizations. Right? No one can stop you from identifying people. You can use LinkedIn, or if you're in my job search coaching program, we'll teach you how to use Google Boolean to break the LinkedIn database and any other database you want to try to find people and profiles that fit who you are looking for. Or you could find a teammate, or you could find a recruiter, or you could find a friend who could refer you to the recruiter or the boss or a person on the team that you might be working, or anybody in that company that will get you inside there, okay? So 3 people a day, and then 3 thoughtful messages. That's 3 direct emails, or if you want to, you could use LinkedIn for that too. I prefer email. But if you do this each day, every single week, that means you will have reached out to 15 different companies. This is 100% in your control, this is 100% in your control, and this is 100% in your control. And if you want to know how healthy your job search is at any moment in time, it is not how many interviews you've got from the applicant tracking system, right? Where you've shoved your resume in there. These are the metrics that I want you to look at. How many companies have I identified? How many people have I reached out to? How many relationships have I developed? A relationship could be, hey, Andy, thank you for the email. Yes, I am on that team. I'm happy to exchange and give you insight into how much I love working for my company, my boss, and everything I get to do. It could be, hey, let me get you over to. It could be anything of any kind that you consider some kind of connection where you now feel comfortable communicating with that person. How many emails? That's thoughtful emails. That's not, hey, I sent you this email last week. I'm still interested in talking. No, I'm talking about initial send-outs in email form, whether your resume was attached or a cover letter was attached, or maybe it was just an opener, but some kind of initiative, an email that initiates a connection. It could be directly to a boss, in which case you'd send your cover letter and your resume. It could be to a teammate, in which case you just might want to direct message them on LinkedIn. Any of that. And then how many interviews have I actually gotten? That's it. All of these 4 at the top are generally in your control, okay? Because one leads to another. This leads to this, right? These emails that you send to these people are going to lead to these relationships. So the relationship itself and the interviews itself are your primary goals. They're lagging indicators. So what do I often say, right? Success has its own timetable. If you keep at it, you'll be there when it decides to show up, right? Your success metrics should not be, did I get a job offer? That's your ultimate goal. But the metrics you want to monitor along the way are going to give you an indication of if you're doing the right things. Because if you're not taking the right steps or doing the right acts, you won't be able to know that until you look at metrics like this to determine what's actually happening. So I think Rachel said, well, I'm not getting the interviews. Okay, well, there's a 8-step troubleshooting process to determine between the time you send a message and the person doesn't respond, there's 8 or 9 things that can be wrong. You have to look at the data, look at your template, look at who you're sending it to, all of that good stuff to determine what is the most likely thing that's wrong. You can't do that unless you have some sense of what's actually happening, and your feeling about what's going on is not usually very accurate because you're not highly trained in this particular activity. So think about that. And I'm going to actually show you a real live written case study that somebody sent me about how all this works. Okay, so formula number 1 and metrics, the metrics I want you to manage is do 3 companies a day, 3 people each day. That's 3 individual people. They could be at those companies or getting you in the direction of those companies. But I want you to, if you want to become strict and adhere to your quotas, I assure you, do this like brushing your teeth. And then 3 thoughtful messages. You do this day in and day out. Think about what you're going to have in 2 weeks. You're going to have 30, it's only if you do this Monday through Friday, you're going to have 30 companies that you reached out to. And statistically, and depending on your level, every 7 messages that you send should result in an interview, not a response, an actual interview. Okay, so that's if you're doing it right. Okay, so that's the first step. Now, I've got a little bit of a bonus tip that I want to give you a better idea of how to come over that feeling stuck about your lack of direction. But before I do that, I want to take a sip of this tea, and I would love it if you actually are enjoying this to hit the like button, share this, make sure you're subscribed to the station. There's a lot of people who need help, and I send out videos every Tuesday morning. Every Thursday I show up for live shows. I'm here and available and accessible. So I do hope you are enjoying this. And now I want to give you a tip that I actually gave members of my job search coaching program a couple of months ago. And I was finding that there were a lot of, and this does not only apply to senior people, but there were a lot of one-to-one coaching I have 2 to 3 coaching sessions every day. So I have, let's say, 10, 12, 15 a week in, week out, usually with individuals, so different people. Sometimes folks are repeat visitors with me, but generally speaking, one session with me is usually enough, and it's really going to help you get the results that you want. And what I was noticing, and I think this was probably back in December, I had this like 2-week stretch where there were a lot of these senior people who were very confused about what route to take, and they weren't sure the steps to figure out the route. And I want to give you these steps that are a variation of the job search challenge, where we insert a few intermediate steps to help you triangulate the direction. All right, so first step is if you're having trouble determining your route, and I'm not talking about I want to make a wholesale career change here, like I'm Andy IT guy, I want to become Andy executive recruiter. That is a larger scale self-awareness, evaluation, research, 12-step process where you figure that out. I'm talking about I'm a senior person that could do a number of things, and I'm not sure if I want to go to these types of companies or those types of companies or do these kind of roles or those kind of roles, and it's a little confusing because I can do a lot of things, and just because you can doesn't mean you should or doesn't mean you'll like it. So in those cases, I want you to identify companies. That's the first thing, except that as you're identifying the organizations, so instead of just identifying companies where the job search challenge in its pristine form is great for somebody who wants to change companies but not make wholesale changes to their actual job, but somebody who might want to make changes to their job but stay generally in their space has to do a little bit more. Then what I want you to do is I want you to segment the companies. And I want you to segment the companies based on a couple things. You can do it by sector, market, or industry, whatever term you want to use there. And I'll give you an example here in a second. The solution, the product, or the service. So let me give you an example. One of those women I was coaching, very high-powered, very smart, very senior, was actually a surgeon, a doctor, like MD. And she now works for a technology company and does AI work. And she is looking at considering a career path for herself and wanted my help trying to figure out the possibilities. Now, that person, she could go after a tech company. She could go after a tech company in the healthcare space, but then healthcare in and of itself has different genres or subsectors, so to speak, and she could look at payers, providers. She could look at diagnostic companies, right? She could look at research companies. There's a number of different variations that she could look at. And then there's different solution lines that she could look at. Or maybe you're somebody else who isn't sure if you're not quite sure of the industry you want to work at, but maybe you have a different solution where that's an area of expertise. Maybe you're a CRM guru or an SFA guru, or you have some type of technology platform that you specialize in, or whatever it is. That can be a different solution line. Or it could be, well, I want to look at a technology product. I want to look at a researching service. I want to look at whatever. Now, her resume in this case, or any case, is going to be tailored for the primary skill sets that she offers and tells a story using career highlights and a career profile that center in the prospective employers on the value she offers, which usually is in alignment to what it is they expect her to do on the job. Except she has to figure out which path she wants to go, and she also wants to figure out which of these company types is going to be most receptive to somebody of my background, right? She doesn't know that yet, and she's trying to triangulate this. And what do I always say to you? You don't get it until you get into it, which means she's got to test first before she does anything at a deep level. So before she tries to pursue many companies in one subsector, it's better for her to know if that subsector has an appetite for her with her background or her based on her resume. So you want to segment them. So you want to make some groupings. Let's say you make 3 to 5. You can have as many or as few as you want. Then what I want you to do is I want you to start looking at those companies. I want you to identify the likely unit within the company where they would be the most probable group to want your services based on the skills you offer and the value you'll contribute. Because not everybody is going to have the position she might want, meaning the functions that she wants to handle, not the title, because we don't know what the title is yet. Where is it in that company? In this product company, it sits over in the product development side. In this company, which is a services company, it sits as a subject matter expert in the whatever group, right? So it's not always cookie cutter. So you don't always easily know who the boss is or where the group is that likely needs you and your background to come in and help them. So you need to do some research. So there's a researching step. Then as you start to gather that information, you want to get the primary target within those different sectors or segments, I should say. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you know who the probable group is within each of those sectors or company segment types that you've identified. And then what you do is instead of just starting to blindly email bosses and things of that nature, I want you to take a cross section. So think in terms of 5 columns of different kinds. So for her, maybe there's a tech company or tech healthcare. Maybe it's tech healthcare on the hospital side. Maybe it's researching. Maybe it's diagnostics. Maybe it's whatever. So instead of going deep on one of those columns or deep on those companies, what I wanted her to do was take a sliver across. Maybe take 25 companies, 5 across, or 50 companies, 10 across, each of the different columns, so to speak, and then do a sampling. Use the boss hunting technique. If you don't know what that is, you can grab it. The templates, they're on my YouTube channel. It's free. You can send direct cover letters and your resume to recruiters. I don't care how you do, what you do. Find somebody in those organizations, preferably somebody in the group you want to join, and then send. And your goal is what? Not to get a response, it's to get data. Yes, data comes in the form of response, but your attention should be, I'm sending out 25 emails this week with the sole purpose of figuring out which route I should take. That's it. That's your goal. That's where your focus should be. Then what's going to happen? Some of them are going to get back to you and some are not going to get back to you. And then what are you going to do? You're going to need to look at them. Did 3 of the 5 in that one segment get back to you? Now, 25 is not a lot. Right? Could be random, right? What do I say, right? Problems don't bother me, randomness does. So 25 is not a huge sampling, especially 5 apiece. But when you start getting into the 10 apiece, and you could start to see, gee, these people are always getting back to me, right? Small to medium businesses in this space really find my resume attractive. Okay, now you have your answer. What do you do the next week, right? You take this after you start the your subsection. You've evaluated your results, you get more info, and then what? You drop the pedal. You drop the pedal and you start sending more messages to those companies in that particular segment or segments, and then see what happens. And then what? And you iterate and you keep going. And all you focus on is responses, right? When you send a networking message, your sole goal is to get a response. In this particular case, your sole goal is to gather data. Right, is to get enough responses to actually figure out what's happening so you can triangulate the direction you want to take. This is marketing 101, and you're all in a marketing and sales effort right now. Okay, so if you do that, if you do this and segment the companies, this will help you get unstuck with the direction that you want to take. If you just simply want to change companies, then focusing on these metrics, how many companies have I identified? How many people did I reach out to? How many relationships have I built? How many thoughtful emails did it take me to build these relationships, and how many interviews that I've gotten? All right, now I want to show you this in action. So we have this person. His name is Max. Max is a member of my job search coaching program, and he's also a member of my leadership coaching program, which basically means he has my undying love for life. Now, Max knows that I'm obsessed with statistics. So he got a job. He moved from Germany to Switzerland in 2021. And then he needed to move from that job and get another job in Switzerland in 2022. And he didn't have an EU passport. So Max had all kinds of issues. And Max, apparently on May 5th of last year, he sent me this email that was very, very long. And what I'm doing is I've cut it up for you. And I'm actually going to share exactly how he went through his search. But more importantly, I'm sharing this with you so that you could take away the sentiment and the odyssey that he went through and how he managed his emotions throughout the process. I couldn't think of a better way to illustrate this to you than to share this with you. I want to share some results from my recent search. It was one of the hardest and easiest searches I've ever done. Here was his challenges. So if you think you got it tough, this guy's a career changer. He's in his early 30s. He's in Switzerland because he previously moved from Germany, but he didn't have an EU passport. So in Switzerland, it's actually quite hard to get this. He needed to actually have a job by the beginning of January of last year. Otherwise, he was going to have to leave the country. And so he didn't basically have the right credentials, and he was on a clock. So what he did was he gave me the summary of what actually happened. So he started on January 1st, and he sent his first email. And by mid-April, so a dozen or so weeks later, he had accepted an offer. He'd gotten 2 job offers. He'd contacted nearly 100 people. 44 of them got back to him. So he had a 44% response rate that resulted in about a 1 in 4 engagement rate for interviews. So he ultimately made it all the way through 4 recruitment processes, and he got 2 job offers, and he got a 38% increase in pay. All right, so what did he do? He said, all right, he said, the statistics helped improve my confidence. There were times where I had high response rates and times where I had low response rates, but he kept basically, and in his term, he used applications, but he ultimately was sending emails, which I know and have clarified. But he got awareness, so he really was understanding how this stuff worked. And he said, and it was so great to see that he had a long list of things going, because when he would get frustrated, he knew he had more options, but he just kept going even if he was getting rejections immediately. Then what he said is he made an assumption about, or organizations that were so obsessed. Actually, I should take that back. He made this point about organizations that were so obsessed that would just respond to him, hey, we have no role at the moment, or you need to put your resume in the applicant tracking system, or whatever it is. He wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, and he didn't get bummed out, even though he knew he was an exact fit. He said, but because there was a balance of other people who were equally as nice, who were willing to help him. And he also said that, he previously, in his iteration in 2021, when he was actually job searching, he said, I reached out to so many people. I got to know over 60 HR people and recruiters from 62 different companies. So these are seeds he planted. He ended up getting a job with not one of those companies, but he responded to a chunk of those. He said, and all the people he responded to in 2022, when he was job searching again, had responded back to him. And even if they were simply giving him some time on their calendar to do a little informational exchange, he used that opportunity to gather research about those company types to figure out their organizational structures, because he knew that would mirror in other companies like them. He said, and actually one lady from an IT consultancy in Switzerland actually said, I'll forward your resume to all of the heads inside our organization. And he said, and wouldn't you know it, that was one of the companies that had the stamp on their website that says you must apply via our applicant trashing system. I guarantee you, no applicant trashing system is going to circulate your resume to all the industry heads. Okay, so assumptions are not your friends. Just keep moving. Okay, forget about the ATS. The company was very stubborn. I should apply online. He would make a judgment call and a decision that if an organization said that to him, he knew that organization wasn't for him. He just said, I'm going to move on. And the next thing was I kept pounding this into his head. Do not make any assumptions. Your assumptions are not your friends in anything that you do in your life, especially when it comes to job searching and especially when it comes to salary negotiation. So he assumed getting a work permit in Switzerland was going to be rough. And as a matter of fact, so too did a lot of the HR people in organizations. And I almost guarantee you that these HR people that assumed it was going to be difficult probably never had to interact and try to get one of these, right? They just heard it from their friends, or they assumed from somebody that they spoke with quickly that it was going to be a problem. He said, but as it turned out, his background and what he did, which was not extraordinarily unique, in my opinion, apparently was deemed by the state as exceptional, so he didn't even need to get a work permit, right? And he also said that, when people didn't respond the first time, he gave them the benefit of the doubt, assumed they were busy, and just followed up with them, and that was the case. Now, he also said, here's a little plug for those in my job search coaching program, if you have access to my illustrious and very valuable and effective role definition session where I give you the grid of how to lay out how you want to make your counter argument for salary negotiation. He actually did that quite effectively, so it's in there for people who are in the boot camp. And then he said, and this I love, finally, I think it was good that I was stubborn enough to keep listening to what Andy says despite all the challenges and opinions from other people. So you can see the emotions that he was going through, but what did he do? He stayed consistent. He was locked in. He didn't let any of the assumptions deter him. He didn't let any of the responses deter him. And he just kept going because he was focused on, I'm adding more companies. I'm calling more people. It's okay to call people you know. It is. They count, right? I want you to network. You have a great percentage of getting your job that way, so why not do that? Well, those 62 people that he inventoried that were in HR from companies he reached out to before, those count, right? So you're laying the foundation for future endeavors. And this job search, I said, it's nothing more than an opportunity, right? To learn about companies, to meet people you don't know, put them in your phone book, right? Practice the skills of reaching out. You're not just practicing the skills, you're conditioning this. You're conditioning this, your psyche, your self-esteem. Two, that I will. Everything you do all day long should be feeding your self-esteem and your level of confidence. And getting in that cadence of that 3 each day is going to do that. And if you focus on these metrics, just to kind of recap this, focus on the companies. Run your search this way. Why? You can control it. There are no limits. You can reach out to people. Why? Because people are the ones who give you the job. The system doesn't give you the job, and you can control it. You never need to stop, right? But when you don't see an open position at a company that you want to go, what do? You stop. That's limited thinking. Don't do that, right? How many relationships are you building? That's a function of how many emails or phone calls you're making if you actually use the phone, right? Kind of thing. That will lead to interviews, and it only takes one. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If you are here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. If you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week. And always, if you enjoyed this, smash the like button, send a message to YouTube, share it with your friends, and I hope you're subscribed to the channel. All right, see you soon. Okay, let's get into Kara's sending me some stuff. Beth, what's up, y'all? I tracked this type of thing and the type of outreach I did and found the boss hunting had the best results for replies and interviews. It really works. She's a boot camper. And if you don't know what she's referring to with the boss hunting, check it out. It's free. It's on my channel. And if you're in the job search coaching program, you don't just get the 2 free templates. You get a real thick boss hunting Bible with instructions, variations, all the reach outs, but all the rebuttals. They're going to come back with 9 different responses and what you want to say in those any of those 9 different responses, and all the variations of that stuff. So if you're in the boot camp, you have access to that. Word Dog, did Max mention his work and skills background? He was working for a consulting company, but he was a technology consulting company, but he is an academic, a researching academic. Of all things. Adam Stark, if a company has a role, but it's too senior, junior, or not quite what you're looking for, how should you adjust the boss hunting message? You should use the boss hunting message that with no role. So first thing is you noticing a message, an open position, while in many cases can help, in this case it confused you. Take the confusion out. Send the email to the boss and say, this is what I offer. I'm open to discussing how I can help your team, any position. I'd be open to how you think I can add value. The language is in the boss hunting, the free template, where there's a boss hunting message when you don't know if there's an open role. Assume you don't know. I'm not even sure which one I am. Or you could say, I noticed a few roles related to, and don't say junior or senior, just give a generic description. Also, if you discover this in an interview, how to follow up. I'm open to being seated wherever you feel I would add the most value and whatever's appropriate. All right, Desha, I haven't received one phone call or email since Christmas. That's a far cry from previously. What's going on? I don't know. Is it super slow right now? No. Or is the lack of response just about me? So, well, actually, yes and no. I would say whatever you're experiencing is always unique to you, except that them not responding may have nothing to do with you. Maybe you're targeting organizations that are off and running on their new projects, and the people that they hired between December and early January they're busy trying to get them up to speed. I would keep going. I would keep going. Remember, it only takes one. So, I know you have a great background, and there are companies that are out there that are going to want you. So it isn't your resume, I'll tell you that. So it's probably just targeting, or it's something on their end. I would just keep going. I literally would. It's the 19th, right? It's only the 19th. So, that isn't a whole lot of work days, this past few weeks. I'm going to tell a little story here about VJ. And VJ was one of my VIPs in the job search coaching program, and we exchanged email. He sent me his background, his resume, and all that good stuff. I sent him a message back. Everything was going well. We actually had a coaching session. Everything was going well, and he was going to start boss hunting. And it was August, and it was the first summer of when we had the vaccinations for COVID. And it was August 2021. And I said to him, he said, okay, I'm gonna start boss hunting next week. And I said, great. I said, but I want you to realize that it's August. And August is gonna be the slowest month this year because we started getting vaccinations in March, April, May, June. And now, hospitality is opening up, and people are going to be on vacation, and the kids are going to get back to school, so they're squeezing this in. Everybody's like a caged animal. We've been caged up for a year. Don't be surprised if you don't get a lot of responses. So a week or two goes by, and he sends me an email in total panic that says, Andy, I need a coaching session right away because I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I said, well, let me refresh your memory on what I told you when we talked. And I still think this is the case. Tell you what, why don't we put the coaching session on a calendar, but let's go out 10 days. Give me to the end of next week. This is on a Monday or something. Give me to the Friday of the next week. And let's see if anything happens. And then about a week goes by, and I get an email from him, and he said, Andy, half of them got back to me. I don't need to talk to you about that anymore. I want to prep for my interviews. Right, so you don't know what's happening, but yes, this can be the case if, depending on who you're targeting, if they're busy at this moment, this stuff happens, which is why it's important for you to stay consistent day in and day out. And so that's how I look at that. No assumptions. Evaluation, data. Jana, how you doing, Jana? Hey, Andy, please remind me of the best response to a recruiter who asks you if you're open to relocation when in your heart you know you're not. Just say, I'm open for anything for the right opportunity. you know, and we can evaluate that as, you know, as we go through the process. It's just like your salary. You always want a kick. And then, knowing you, they're going to love you so much, right? They're going to say, Jana, you're so awesome. I can't unsee you, right? Once they see me, they can't unsee me. You could work from Florida, where you always rub in the weather in Andy's face because I'm on day 187 in the beautiful Long Grove, Illinois, where I haven't seen sunshine. All right, hope that serves you. Charlene Crocker, what's up? I hope I am well. Because of your teachings, I researched a company, reached out to an employee, which opened a dialogue about the position they had available and why he loved it. He posted that he loved his job and company, and I asked if he would connect with me with the HR. Result, I have an interview tomorrow at 4 p.m. The time frame was 1 week. Lesson, go to the source, not the ATS. That's right. Okay, I love that. Anybody who's in the job search coaching program, there is a session in the boot camp on how to target non-bosses, and we talk about what messages you should send to potential teammates and all that other good stuff. So that is a great, great route you took. DFP 79. Kara, can you do me a favor? Can you Slack me so I can get over into the chat and out of the Slack? So Dana's, are you giving me the stuff in order? I could go from the chat. And DFP 79, what's up, Dana? Cold reach out to an employee, had a Zoom call. So far, so good. She gave me a referral link to apply, which I did. Okay, I don't love that. I'd rather she forwarded your resume. All right, let me read this. Should I find a contact in HR and follow up as well as send a note to the hiring manager or just one? Okay, first thing is I want you to watch my video on my YouTube channel about the #1 networking mistake. And I want you to catch that. And I'm going to give you a little color here. If any of you find yourself in the position Dana is in, where you connected with somebody, she talked to this person on the Zoom. The dialogue goes, this is great, I will apply, but is there a chance you can first just refer me? Meaning, can you make an introduction for me and the hiring official, or me and the HR person, or whatever she's willing to do. And then that's A. If the answer is no, then B, so you got no and yes, right? If it's yes, have her send it. She makes the intro, you're good to go. Except that you also want to make sure, okay, when we do this, Zoom friend, if the person doesn't get back to me, which could happen, what's the next step? How long are we going to wait? What are you going to do? What are we going to say? Are you going to send a follow-up for me? And so on. All of that blueprint is mapped out, okay, before you send anything. If she says no, you say, okay, I'll tell you what, I will use your referral link. I will put your name in there. Can you do me a favor and give me the name of the recruiter or the HR person who monitors for this job so that I can follow up with that person directly, to which I would have gotten the name and she would have given it to you likely. If she took the time to talk to you on Zoom, she's going to give you the name of the HR person, okay? And so I wouldn't be worried about that. And then once I got that name of that HR person, I would submit the resume through the referral link. If I didn't hear anything in 7 days, I would email the HR person directly. I would use the friend's name on the Zoom. I would have cleared all this with her in advance, that I'm following up. I submitted my resume, and I'm really interested in the opportunity. I've attached my resume and cover letter here. I would love to hear your thoughts, so on and so forth. That's it, one shot. And that's it. That's all I would do there. And then you have another question. You found a role, and an executive recruiter I'm connected to reached out to me not too long ago, is connected to the hiring manager. Can I ask him for an intro? Is asking for recruiters for intros a no-no? Okay, couple things. Great question. Let me save you from the faux pas. But I would have a question here, and which means I'm going to have to answer this a couple different ways. If you said the recruiter reached out to you, but you didn't say whether you actually had a conversation with the recruiter, got to know the recruiter, gave the recruiter your resume, and so on. Because there's different levels of strength with the recruiter. Recruiter emails you You exchange back and forth, but you never talk. You email that recruiter back or LinkedIn connection back or whatever it is that you do, and you say, I see a position, right? Or I see a role at this company. I want to know if you are recruiting for that organization, or I'm assuming that if they are, okay, are you recruiting for that information? Because if you are, I want to go through you. If you're not, can you make a mutual email introduction for me? If the person is recruiting for that role, you do not want to bypass that role. You got a better chance of getting the job going through the executive recruiter. Don't be silly. Don't worry about the fee. Okay, that's irrelevant. The fee has nothing to do with you. The company's already agreed to pay it, and all that good stuff is in order. So don't do that, and don't ask for an intro, because if that recruiter finds out that you went direct, while it might not be the end of the world for you, but that recruiter will never help you again for the rest of your life. So that's the way I would do it. So you need to know if that recruiter has a working relationship, if it's an active relationship, or if it's a relationship that can be resuscitated or whatever for the recruiter. I would always check with the recruiter first and never bypass the recruiter if you get engaged unless the recruiter goes silent on you. All right, that's a great question. Jonathan Sewell. Oh, you're not giving. Okay. All right, then just keep feeding them to me, Care. Jonathan, so where's the point at which a contact becomes a relationship in terms of this process? Wherever you decide. If you feel like, wait, let's not split hairs here, right? Did you connect with somebody who got back to you, you had a friendly exchange, bang, that's a relationship. Meaning, yeah, I could go back and say, hey, I really enjoyed connecting with you 2 months ago, and so on. The point is, companies, people, emails, right? Companies, people, thoughtful emails. And you just keep moving. And like what Max said, 62 HR. Those were not even all the people he connected with. Those are the HR people he connected with. So that's the way I would think about that. Don't get overly hung up on that particular metric. Yes, it's a good guideline, but meaning you're differentiating. If Jonathan, tell you what, and anybody else, if you want to change relationships to responses, I'm okay with that too. The point is, get focused on stuff you can control. Okay. All right. Human, you are my boot camper, buddy. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. If I'm able to discover the emails of both the CEO and the potential hiring manager at a given company, who should be my target? You have the best shot at going at the person who is the direct boss, the one who's closest to the boss. So whether that's the boss's boss, and you keep going up from there. If you're not getting responses, then you go down a rung and you try to hit a teammate. But that's the sequence in which I do it. And I would try the boss first, and I would try the boss second, meaning give him 10 days, and then I would call it a day. And then I would go I'd go another week, and then I'd go at the CEO. And why do I not even care about waiting 17 days? Because you're feeding the funnel. And if you do 3 a day, the top of the funnel, right? If you do 3 a day, 3 a day, 3 a day, what happens in 17 days? I have 51 more companies that I've contacted since the time I initiated my contacts at that one company. I am 50 more to the good. I don't care if that company gets back to me, right? All right. And so, Kara, I love rooting in the chat. What are you guys thinking in the chat? Give me something so I could scream. Maker Garage, what's up? Word Dog, Janine, I'm in Long Grove now, but I'm so glad to see you, that you showed up. Janine sent me such a nice email or two, or message or two. We got to get one of her questions in here too. So Kara, make sure we get Janine's question in here. That's Janine G with the nice YouTube picture. All right, Ben Parker, do we attach a resume in the email? Yes and no. Yes is if you go to a boss or a management team or something of that nature, right? Like it's a person in a hiring capacity, or you suspect. I've attached my resume. If it's a teammate, you don't need to. If it's an HR person, then it's resume cover letter style. I'm reaching out because, boom, boom. right? Great question. Great question. Richard. Oh, wait, Magnetic Rose. If you receive a recommendation from an employee at a company, but you can't find a place to put an employee referral in your application, what should you do? So, Magnetic Rose, pecking order. Number one, stay out of the ATS. I don't even need to worry about that. If you want to send, if you receive a recommendation, and I'm not sure what you mean by a recommendation. Do you mean, you know, a referral? Like, I'm Andy, and I want to refer you into my company. Then what I would do is, number one, I would try to get that person to actually connect me to whomever the boss is. If they don't know the boss or don't have a strong enough relationship, I would try to get them to forward my email and me, copy me to the recruiter, to the HR person, or whatever. If the person is reluctant, right, any of these could happen. If the person is reluctant to do that, then you need to say, can I use your name? Great. Hey, HR person, I'm reaching out because I know so-and-so who speaks so highly, this, that, and the other thing, right? Boom. If the HR person says, okay, go put your, application in the applicant trashing system, then say, okay, no problem. Boom. I'll follow up with you in a week if I don't hear from anybody. Like that kind of stuff. I would always, the listing, the sequence, the whatever you want to call it that I give you in terms of what to do first, what to do second, what to do third, will always be based on what is the strongest relationship. Meaning, what is the strongest relationship that you have into that company? It's that person making a mutual introduction. What if I know 3 different people in a particular company because they used to work with me at that company and I want to get into their company of which I know 3 different people. It isn't who you know the best. It's who has the strongest relationship with the person who is most likely to hire you. If the person you know the least, like you got, drinking buddy number 1 and drinking buddy number 2 and a person was like lukewarm acquaintance, you go to the lukewarm acquaintance and you say, hey, I see you report to so-and-so. Can you send my resume to that person? Right? That's strength of the relationship, not your relationship to them, but your relationship to the boss. What is going to get you the greatest likelihood of being able to do that? And most probability that you're going to get a response. So that's a great one. And then Richard, what's up, buddy? My boot camper. When contacting large organizations, would you email multiple people in the organization or just one and then another a week later? So the answer to the first question, the way you asked it, is I would email multiple people, never at the same time. I would literally rank them by what I just said, strength of relationship. So is that a boss and I can go direct, because I don't know anybody in the organization, bang, I'm going right to the boss. If I can't get the boss, do I know somebody who can introduce me to the boss? It's okay to say, hey, I got a friend. I know the friend tried to reach you, but you really need to look at her or him or whatever. Then do that. If you are going totally cold, and let's give you a harder challenge. I'm a salesperson and I work in the Chicagoland area. I see a national sales VP. I see a director of the Central region. I see the director of the Heartlands. I see the director of the South Central, whatever. And you're like, I don't know, where do I fit? I don't know how they're whatever. Take your best guess. You take a shot at the hiring official you think is the best one. Next, what do? You go up. You go to the national person, because if the national person likes you, they're going to route you to what? The appropriate boss. If that person doesn't get back to you, you go to the Heartlands guy. You go to the whatever gal. You know what I mean? And then you just keep going that way. And honestly, if the first couple don't get back to me, I'm moving on. Why? Because it's a week or two later and you've got 20 more companies that you've contacted. You don't care. Balls in the air. Ali, if boss hunting email is open but no response, should I immediately go to the next potential boss or wait 5 to 7 days? Okay. Now, in the job search coaching program, of which Ali is a member, we do recommend that you use email tracking tools, except that they're kind of a pain in the butt, and if you tried to track whether I read your email, like the way I read my email is I hit the down key and it goes boop, 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 and it looks like I opened everything and my Big Mac screen is flashing and I'm looking at like blink, blink, blink. Like I didn't really read the thing. And like now I got to go back and figure out what I want to look at. So you never really know what's happening. And I almost treat it as if I'm score, they opened it, right? Or it got through. I got an actually live person. I got the email. And that could be any number of reasons. I have emails I open and I look at them and I might read them in full. And it's like, I need to get back to that person, except I can't get back to that person right now. And I'm not going to be able to get back to that person until the weekend, right? It's Monday or whatever. And so you don't know. And so I would wait a week, one more time. And remember, your follow-ups need to be this small. If they didn't respond to the first email, they don't want another one of these. Just say, I wanted to I'm still interested in connecting with you if you're open to it. As few words as possible. That's a great question. All right, so we got a Janine question in here. Is it better for C-level roles to go to recruiters or go direct to companies? How does this work for C-level roles? Janine, great question. And I looked at your profile, so I know you're a very senior person, and I know a lot of you are senior people. But don't naturally assume that executive recruiters like Korn Ferry or Heidrick and Struggles or Mile Walk Inc., when we did all this, would be interested in working with you if they are focused on other searches, because their priorities are directed based on their clients, and the sequence in which they bring people into their network and interview them and get to know them is usually a function of the pull from the demands of the client. What do I mean really specifically here? I don't need to talk to you right now just because I need to fill up my network with people who I might need to call in the future. Because when I need somebody who's a chief marketing officer or a chief technology officer or a CIO or whatever, I'm going to be able to reach out at that time when I have that search to contact the people. And at that time, you may or may not be available, which might be 6 months from now. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time when I've got companies breathing down my back. I'm going to focus on the ones that are breathing down my back, and I'm going to look for the positions that I recruit for and look for the people that I know or can reach out to proactively at this very moment to fulfill those positions. It doesn't matter. All companies, all recruitment firms work that way. Yes, there will certainly be people who will have the coffee with you or have the lunch or maybe have a quick phone call or a quick Zoom, but that's going to be a lot lower. Your best bet is to be reaching out to organizations directly, and if I'm you, I would go directly to the CEO. Okay, it doesn't matter if they have a marketing person or if you're a technology person, don't worry about all that. You don't need to say, I want to replace your CMO or I want to be your new, VP of this or that. It just go with them. I'm evaluating companies and I'm reaching out to you because I've got any one of a number of ways you can say this, depending on who it is, strength of relationship, what you're trying to accomplish. And somebody like you is going to get a lot of response, meaning you're going to get responses from companies way more than you're going to get responses from recruiters. And that's not to say you can't develop relationships with recruiters. Of course you can. But when I think about you have only so many minutes in the day, I want you prioritizing those minutes and spending time where they're most valuable. And so the question is great. And then the other element, when you're asking how does this work for C-level roles, even if you were the CEO, you could still contact these people. And what I would be doing is I would be focusing on, I'm looking to build relationships with people and organizations that I would hope to support. And you just go. And believe me, CEOs are good networkers. Especially, and I don't know what kind of size of the companies are that you want to work for, but if they're smaller to medium-sized companies, they're going to be much more apt to get connected with you and want to talk. And then if they're super large companies, they're probably having recruitment firms or search firms working on their behalf, but the probability that you would know that is very low, which means you could thread the donut hole with the grape at 1,000 yards, but the likelihood is low. So that's how I would approach that. That's a great question. Tom Phillips, how to represent on a resume. How to represent on a resume, return to the same company to a different position after a 1-month gap. Laid off December, started in February. Someone else gave notice and they called you back. Okay, that's unique. It's not, so like if you were gone a year, it's here, whatever else you did, and then back, okay? Same thing. I mean, like you would any other transition. If you were gone for a very short time, I probably would just say from whenever to present and don't make a big deal out of it. And no, wait, I'm not saying lie. For purposes of your resume, if you feel compelled to let them know that there was a restructuring, I was off for a few weeks, they brought me back. You don't need to say somebody left and just say there was a restructuring, they got it figured out, they brought me back. I want to let you know if you do a background check, that's what's going to show up. I would not worry about this. Balaji, any tips on how to apply for jobs outside the country, like in Canada or UK, while living in the US? I love it. Just check the video out on how to get an out-of-state job, and it works like you were out of state, out of country. A lot of the tactics work whether you're looking in the next county. So it's the same. Rachel, biggest frustration, not getting interviews with hiring managers. When you say we should be getting 1 interview for every 5 to 10 emails every 3 days, that's true. Does that include virtual coffee? Okay. So if you are, if and only if you are using the right tactics, your resume is wholly in order. Meaning on my resume, I have a career profile and a career highlights section that immediately shows you why you'd want to hire me without reading the rest. Meaning, and we've talked about this, and there's a video out there on my YouTube channel about how to show your value to the employer. You need to think about, for what I do, what are the goals? Every marketing person out there, I don't care whether you're the CMO or you're the junior social media text copywriter. Your goal is to increase brand awareness. That's number one. Your next goal, which is for you, Rachel, your next goal, right, is what? Doing something that makes the salesperson's job easier. So the leads that you're gathering are better and more in alignment with as a prospective purchaser of your products and services. So you're increasing the sales party's ability to close. You're setting up an infrastructure that enables you to what? Do these first 2 things. Every marketer does that. I don't care where you are in any of the 8 positions or position types on the marketing team. So are you clearly showing this? All right, then, are you targeting the right kind of companies? We had a woman, true story, in the boot camp, was a genius QA person. Her forte was setting up quality assurance teams, structures, and everything. Awesome, great resume. Was sending her resume to companies that she thought would need that. And she and I did a one-on-one coaching session, and I said, you're sending this to gaming companies. You're going to have to convince the person that they need this when the gaming companies are having what? The developers QA their stuff. So you're going to have to convince somebody who doesn't even have a department that they need this department when they're going along and everything is fine. And you're doing that from your paper, meaning you have to not only, right, send it, get an interview, and then convince them, kind of thing. So you have to know these kind of things. Are you sending it to the right kind of company? Her resume was in order. She was sending it to a technology company, yay, but then the type of company she was sending it to didn't lend itself well to what? Her position. So, are you reaching out to organizations that don't need copywriters or, folks of this nature, kind of thing? Then, are you hitting the right boss? Or are you hitting the right whatever? Are you being consistent? And then there's a number of other things that I would look at. But the point is, any number of these could break the chain and bomb you out. So I get career changers who say, well, Andy, the boss hunting technique doesn't work. No kidding, because the only reason the boss hunting technique works is if you hit a boss who needs immediately what you have. If you're changing careers, you don't have what I need, kind of thing. That's not an effective tactic. You need to use a different one, kind of thing. So without looking at, kind of what you're doing. And then Rachel, one other thing for you, because I know you have it. there is a session in the Job Search Challenge, the 2023 version of the Job Search Challenge. I would look at the troubleshooting section. It's session 5. And if you don't see your answer in there, I would be a little surprised. Okay, the troubleshooting, the augmented version of what I just said to everybody here is in there. The 2023 Job Search Challenge version troubleshooting session, overcoming the challenges. S. Carter took a break from the worst play. Oh, wait, sorry. And Rachel, one other thing. Virtual coffees and all that, that counts. That's an informational interview, I would say. And so, yes, I would count that in the stat. S. Carter, I took a break from the workforce for 7 years to travel. Now that I'm back looking, now I find that companies have an issue with that gap. Some companies have an issue with that gap. A lot of companies will not have an issue with that gap if you market yourself correctly. So if you were an accountant 7 years ago and you want to be an accountant now, I'm sure there's some upkeep, right? And new laws and rules and whatever, right? And practices. Well, you might not start exactly where you were. So maybe you're going and you're trying to do entry level, whatever. But on your resume, I would in the career profile simply put as the last sentence in the second paragraph, returning to the workforce after a 7-year break. That's it. You don't need to get into all that. And what I would also say to you is be consistent with your reach outs. Some companies might have an issue with that gap. A lot of them will not. They won't. They won't. Stephen Green, what's the demographic of your job search coaching audience in 2023 so far? Can you hazard a guess on percentage of senior people, mid and early? Yes, I would hazard a guess. I would say 80% of the people who pay, because that's all I can see based on who I coach, meaning like we can see, I could tell you, there's nearly 200 countries in there, right? I could tell you the breakup of what they buy, but based on the coaching, because I'm meeting the person, I'm seeing the person and all the people that I coach, 80% of the people who enroll in the coaching sessions, meaning they buy the job search coaching program and get coaching sessions with me, or they buy my one-to-one coaching sessions. The one-to-one coaching sessions tend to be very senior people, meaning I have a one-to-one coaching program. That's different than the a la carte individual coaching sessions that are available to members of my job search coaching program. They're still one-to-one coaching sessions, but it's a different format. But essentially, looking at the people who use that, which is the bulk of the people in the Mile Walk Academy and the premium job searching programs, I would venture a guess that 75% of them are over, I would say generally senior, but not always, are generally over 35, mostly. And that while we do have individuals that are in college into their like Max was barely scratching 30 when he joined, right, the program. And we do have a number of those people, and I would call that probably the other 25%. The principles that I bring forward that I have built for you all were based on all my executive recruitment knowledge and all of my individual coaching with very senior people. And then I deconstructed it to make it for a wider audience of white-collar workers. But I wouldn't even worry about that so much. And as a matter of fact, the one thing I would say to anybody, Kara, maybe can you drop this in the chat for me? Drop the storytelling page in there, the boot camp storytelling one where we show the videos of people and they've got their testimonials and I break them out by demographic. So you'll see that there are people that are just starting out their career. You'll see that there are people that have been at companies for a long time. You'll see people closing down businesses trying to get full-time roles. You'll see career changers, country changers. I mean, we've got the whole gamut. But generally speaking, I find, and this is probably a function of my age and my teaching style, is that's what I attract, right? And there's, some of the younger folks, while they engage and love my work, I can also understand why, a 30-year-old career coach would resonate with them, a big brother or sister who maybe has been through what they're going through a little more recently. And that's cool. But there's not any one of you that I wouldn't be able to help or know what to do. That's anybody. And because I coach a lot of college students too, and some of them do So, I mean, if I'm coaching, 10 to 15 people a week, that's 500 to 700 a year, and 150 of them are under 35, right? I mean, that is what it looks like. And most of them are older, or more senior, I should say. So I hope that helps. Shakilia, I love your videos in the community. Keep them up. Wow, I didn't realize how off track I have been. I'm going to need to completely reset my mindset and how I've been approaching job search. I don't think you're all that off. Come on. We've talked. We've case studied you. All right, speaking of, I didn't give you guys any announcements, but next week is a pretty kick butt week. On Monday, I'm going to send you a message with the schedule of the week. On Tuesday at 7 a.m., not 6:30, 7. It's 7 o'clock. I'm doing a premiere, a case study. Actually, I should have had this set up. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can pull this up really quick. And, no, you know what? I'm not, actually, wait, maybe I could, maybe I could do this real quick. Because it might be nice for you to see what we've got coming up next week. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah. Okay. You see this down here, this yellow on the bottom row? You see that career changer case study? A proven way to make a successful career change. On Tuesday morning next week, that video is being released, and it will be a premiere, and I will be attending it with you. And then if you look at the live streams, the two around here, the Careers and Coffee, that's at 7:35 a.m. on Tuesday. So I'm going to be taking some questions. And then on Wednesday, the interview intervention stuff at 11 o'clock, if you see that, is I'm going to be doing interview intervention training. You're going to get an unveiling of the first coaching session in the interview intervention 10th anniversary training session. It's going to be awesome. That's Wednesday, because I'm not available publicly Thursday because I'm meeting with members of my job search coaching program. So next week, that coaching program will be on special, but if you have ants in your pants and want to buy it for a discounted rate, please email us at support@milewalk.com, and Kara will be happy to send you the discount, because Kara just throws dollar bills like, she doesn't even care. Doesn't matter to her. Kara's so rich, people, that when she walks down the street and she sees a $100 bill, she doesn't even bend over to pick it up. No, all kidding aside, she'll be happy to help you. And so if you want the discounted enrollment now, and then you can join us on Thursday, because we're going to be doing some case studies. And Shakilia is familiar because we did one of the case studies with her, I think, last month or the month before. So it's really awesome. So you've got until Thursday at 11 o'clock. So I got a lot. So I'm live. So we got a premiere. I'll be with you at 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Then we're having some coffee together, 7:35. Then on Wednesday, I'm back at 11 a.m. for the interview intervention stuff. It's really good. And then Thursday, we're doing some boot camp stuff. Raja, hey Andy, I'm starting a new job on Tuesday. Yes, can we give Raja a huge high 10 live office hours hug? But I'm interviewing for a better job this Friday. Well, good for you. That's awesome. Do I tell the company I'm interviewing with my situation for now, or after I get the job offer, or never? Okay, I've got this expression. I never panic in my life until I know I need to panic, right? Like, I don't. It's like, and I want you to do that when it comes to job searching and interviewing, especially because you have an offer and you're starting a new job. All right, so you start the new job and then you interview. So you're starting on Tuesday, but you got an interview this Friday. On Friday, what's going to happen? You're going to know if you like the company or not. If you like the company and you continue and you start your new job next Tuesday, if you continue to interview with the one company and you never got the job offer, you don't need to say anything, and no harm, no foul. If you do engage with that organization and you want to make it work, then you make it work, and then you go back to the company that you just started at and you break their heart. And while I don't love that, and it's hugely uncomfortable, number one, you would be amazed at how many people do this. I'm not saying that makes it right. But number two, more importantly, Raja, I don't want you to be looking over your shoulder and being bummed that you didn't take that job that you absolutely loved because you felt guilty because you had this one. And just don't do that. You got to protect yourself. Now, I don't love it, but I wouldn't say anything until I knew I needed to say something. Okay, I hope that helps. NF, my boot camper, what's up? Would you attach your resume to the email even if it contains a longer career gap? I would. I would actually say in the email, I had a career gap from, I was blah, blah. I'm returning. Maria, should you wait a week for follow-up from a screening interview or longer? Maria, I would highly recommend that you check out my short video on the 3 questions you need to, or 3 pieces of information or 3 questions you need to know after an interview, because you need to know what's the next step, by when is that going to happen, who's going to follow up with me, because you don't know if a week is appropriate. It might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 days. But if they didn't give you any indication of their intent to get back to you, so if I say to you, Maria, this is great, I have 3 more people I need to interview over the course of the next couple of weeks, and then 2 weeks from now, we're going to decide the 2 that get to come back. Either way, we're going to notify you of whether you were chosen, but it's going to be a couple of weeks. So you need to give them a couple of weeks and then a few days, because you also don't know if anything went wrong. Did somebody's schedule change? Could they not get the person in? Anything could go wrong. If I say to you, Maria, I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. Well, if I miss it by a day, meaning the next day, that's 100% I missed it by. And so I'd wait the next day, the grace day, the next day, I probably, by the end of business, the following day, now they missed it by 200%. And then I would email them, say, hey, I'm really interested. I know you mentioned you'd get back to me. I thought I would check in, kind of thing. So if you got a screen, they should have been clear with you. Are you going to get back to me? For sure. Might you only get back to me if, right? I'm interviewing 10 people and I'm only going to call 3 back, kind of thing. You need to know these things. Check that video out. Naresh, how to answer if you were looking for a job change in less than a year. It depends. Why? Remember this. Stamp this on your Post-it somewhere. It's better to own a poor decision than it is poor performance. Okay? It's better to own a poor decision than poor performance. I don't know why you left. Let's say this applies to anybody who started a job and ended it within a year. If you ended it within a year, you didn't last a very long time. If you ended it in a week, that's better than if it lasted 6 months. I got there and I realized I missed something in the interview process, that I own that. That's my mistake. I honestly should have evaluated this, but I got there and I thought, all right, I want to own my decision. I did whatever I could to make it work. I did this, that, and the other thing, or whatever. Own it. Own the decision. Make the decision the problem, not your performance, your attitude, the people, or the whatever. Okay? So you want to get their attention focused on your bad decision. Why? Because you already learned from it. It's fixed, and you're not going to make that mistake again. If it's, well, I didn't make it through my probation period because my work was stinky, that's a different problem. But if you're looking for a job in less than a year, I don't know what to tell you to say to them because I don't know why you're looking. Okay, so if it's a situation, you could be, I got hired on and then the company got acquired 3 months later and then they knocked out my division. It could be my boss had it in for me and the world's out to get me. I mean, there's a number of different approaches you would take, but without knowing exactly what the rationale was or reason was, it's difficult for me to tell you exactly what to say. But I would be more apt to say it had to do with my poor decision, which I've now rectified. Pat's Crux, should I contact the recruiter gathering my second application? Should I contact the recruiter? Oh, gandering my second application. She rejected me for another job app, even though I'm 90% fit. Currently waiting on a response on a similar one. Now, number one, you don't know if you're a 90% fit. You think you are based on words on a paper, right? And so I don't know, and she could have rejected you for any number of reasons, and she could have, I don't know if you actually spoke to her, but you said she rejected the application, which leads me to believe that you didn't, and she could have rejected your application for any one of a number of reasons. She could have filled the position, she might have had a pipeline full, and they ended up hiring somebody. So it's very, very difficult to say. I would wait. I would not even bother. I would try to hunt a boss down. Frey Ren, I have a regular career development meetings with my boss. My role is 65-35 split between job titles, but I'm assuming it means job functions, right? That's what that means to me. But long term, I want to do the title that's the 35%. Should I disclose this and how to go about it? Yes and yes. So if I'm doing, let's say I'm doing sales and support, 35-65. I don't know what you do. But I would go to my boss and say, I really enjoy the sales part. I would love to do that long term. I enjoy the sales because I enjoy the support because. But I notice I really have a passion for this. I really love seeing the customer's eyes light up and the blah, blah this and the blah, blah that. And I really like being part of the sales team and whatever. And I'm comfortable to continue doing what I'm doing, but I would love to know if there's any additional opportunities for me to spend more time with this, even if it's extra time. I'm happy to do that. So I want you to know I'm open, and I would love your guidance on anything I could improve on. And you can open up the conversation with, I'd love your help. I'd love your help on any skills I could develop to be more whatever, 35%. And if there's any opportunities you can throw my way to practice it more, do it more, I'm happy to do that, even if it's overtime, and so on. Bits and pieces. Remember, the longer term you think, the better short-term decisions and moves you'll make. If you want to get to the 35% and make that 100, you don't need to do that tomorrow. You need to plant the seed and educate or inform the boss that you want to do that. And you want to do that in a manner that's gentle, that does not get them worried that you're going to have a bad attitude about the 65% or that you're really unhappy and are going to leave. I love the company. I love this and that and the other thing, right? Kind of thing. And so first step, inform, ask for help. All right. Let me see. How are we doing on time? Folks, I got to get running. I'm so sorry. I got a hard stop, 12:35. All right. Next week, Tuesday morning, premiere, 7 o'clock. I'll be with you. The chat will be rocking. 34-minute, 18-second career changer case study. Right after that, we'll roll right into the careers and coffee. The next day, interview training at 11. The following day, for all my beloved boot campers and anybody who wants to be a boot camper because it's so cool, that's Thursday. Anybody who wants the discount, even though it's not on the page right now, email support@malwalk.com. Kara will take care of you. I got to go. Love you all. Thank you so much. I just love you all. Take care.